Wonderful turnout.
Keep going.
Okay, shalom everyone. First of all, thanks for coming to the Israel session. I'm very happy to see all of you. As I started last time, those kind of gatherings, for me, it's like a great opportunity to know, to hear, to raise questions, doubts, ideas about Israel. We won't bring the peace to the Middle East in these sessions, but this is a good place just to gather and even showing our support for Israel. So actually this session, while I started to think about a session that we're going to do about protective edge, started 5 weeks ago while I was driving from my home to Tel Aviv to come back to Omaha after the summer vacation in Israel. And I opened the radio and I heard a voice of a young girl saying, "No one is even close to understanding how he's living in Sderot." And she repeated this again and again. And Yael Dan, she's from Galei Tzahal, a very famous station in Israel, started to ask her again, "But what is so different in living in Sderot?" But she said, "No one can understand. No one is even close to understanding." And she was so enthusiastic to say it. She was interviewed in the radio. I don't know if it was her first time that she was interviewed to the radio, but you can feel all the emotions and all the power that a young girl, 11 years old, saying in the radio that no one can understand her. Last time, when we were talking about the operation, we compared between all the resources that we have. We started from Al Jazeera to the CNN to BBC News. In Israel, we wanted to go all the wings in Israel, the left wing, the right wing, in order to understand this special time in Israel where many people show support to the soldier, to what happened in Gaza, but all the other war is on the social media, on the web, Facebook, on the Twitter. This lecture, you can see it on our website that we uploaded in our CJL website. So I think it's very interesting because while you understand that you just need to think and to understand who is the reporter, who is the person who shared this information, you can understand what are all these ideas and what is all these means in order to do so. So, as I love to start with a short clip. Nowadays, actually now we're in the middle of a ceasefire of the 72 hours. We're in the second day of the 72 hours. Maybe it's going to be another 72 hours. And many people continue to use the Facebook in order to show and to make the war against the Hamas and pro-Israel on the Facebook. So I want to show you a short clip. It is a funny clip, something very nice, finally.
Got us in feet.
Yes!
So, this is the thing that now you can see on my Facebook wall. Yeah, so today, because we talked last time about how we need to be aware about the media, I decided to bring Israelis in order to talk with you. So it's very expensive to fly from Israel to Omaha. Therefore, we decided to do Skype today. And this slide actually, the first slide that I picked with a few pictures, So first of all, Uri Levin, he was the first Shaliach in Omaha, Nebraska, the young Shaliach, the community Shaliach in Omaha, Nebraska. Naama was here in 2011 and 2012. Both of them did reserves during the operation. Naama is still in the army, in another place, not in the Gaza Strip, but in Hebron, which is another place that happened there a lot of things nowadays. And this picture, because as you know, or as you don't know, part of you, I was born and raised in Akko. And Akko is like a mixed city, Arabs and Jews living together with all of the challenges, with all of the tenses that sometimes have, but with all the love that you can see with your friend. And when you open your door, you see a neighbor, an Arab, that is your friend. So this picture is of a lady called Anita Chaskaya, her son Hussein. They are Muslims, and she's Arab. She was living in Akko, and then she decided to live in the center of Israel. And her son was in protective edge. He fought in protective edge, and all the time, like the media wanted to search and to know what are the means of them. So she said, we live in one country, Arabs and Jews. We need to live together. So they are terrorists. They are crazy people. We need to kill all the terrorists and to make all the people live safe. So I gave it because last time I gave the picture, the short clip of Muhammad Zaoubi, the young teenager that's talking with the Israeli flag, how he's proud. And he said, I'm not alone. So this is sometimes when the media wants the people to understand like there is a conflict, there are the bad guys and the good guys. Sometimes there's something in the middle. So today, except Naama and Uri, we have two other guests. Henry, say shalom. And Dr. Rami, Arab, say shalom. And both of them will bring their Israeli voice and their unique story. So in order that it will be organized, it's going to be like 7 minutes of them sharing their Israeli voice, and then we'll give time for questions. So now, let's all pray that the Skype will work. I tried before. Okay. Uri nowadays is the head of the Cultural and Social Department in the IDC, is a college in Herzliya. Thank you. And he's going to share with you his political views and the fact that now he's doing Miluim, with all the story that you're going to hear, with no further ado.
Loss of service.
Shalom Uri.
Erev Tov.
Erev Tov. Say shalom to Uri, all of you.
Shalom.
Oh wow, that's a big crowd.
They all knew that you were going to talk, so they all come.
That's very heartwarming.
Okay, so I introduced you like shortly, briefly, but I would like you to introduce yourself, and you're going to have your 7 minutes to bring the Israeli voice to all the people that you love here in Omaha. After it, we'll have time for questions, so enjoy.
First of all, is Steve Reikus there?
Steve, yes, of course.
For so many years he's doing the Eye of Israel. I had to say hello. Shalom, Steve. What's up?
Good to see you.
All right, so I have 7 minutes. Hi, for you who don't know me, my name is Uri Levin. I'm 33 years old. I grew up in the Galilee in Israel. I was the first community Shaliach to Omaha. It's about to be 10 years since I got to Omaha. It was September of 2004. So it's been a while. And today I work for the Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya. It's a college, it's a private college, and I work there at the international school. I'm responsible for all the social and cultural activities of the school, all the extracurricular, non-formal education. I have a degree in theater and education, and I'm doing my MA in education today. I'm just finishing the first year in my MA, going into the second. Is that good enough of an update of what's going on with me?
Yes.
Alright. As for this specific operation, for the past 7 or 8 years I've been doing, since I got back from Omaha, I've been doing my reserves with the special unit of the Navy that is responsible for the communication between the Navy and the forces on ground. As you know or don't know, the Gaza Strip has a very long shoreline, and today there's a siege there, and the Navy is of course responsible for it, and the Navy is very proactive in terms of bombing, rescuing from the beach, doing special ops, stuff like that, and you need to have some kind of a team to see that all forces are speaking the same language. So this is what I'm doing. I'm part of that team as a special operation officer. I'm a captain today on reserve. And what we did mainly, are you all with me? Can you all hear me?
Yeah. Very good.
Okay, so this operation, I did Cast Lid at 2008, 2009, and then Pillar of Fire, it was called, at 2012, and now this one. So this is my 3rd time doing a Gaza operation, but this one was a very, very tough one. First of all, I was stationed, because of the operation was long and it had several stages, I was in different bases. I started in the Gaza headquarters that was from the get-go heavily bombed all the time with rockets, but it's not the rockets that they shoot to Sderot or to the towns and cities that it takes 15 to 45 seconds to get there. When you're close to the borders, you have 5 to 7 seconds to take cover of rockets, so it was very, very tough to be there. Even just the beginning of it, you just go to an area and it's heavily bombed all the time. Taking cover is something that you have to do really fast. You always have to be really close to a sheltered area in general. From there, I moved, when the operation started, the ground operation started, I moved to the northern part. I was in the central part of Gaza, now I moved to the northern part of Gaza, and pretty much went in with the forces. I didn't go in, I was close to the border. I never went into Gaza, but I was always close to the border, kind of escorting the forces. So the 2nd and 3rd week of the operation, I was south of Ashkelon. Again, the same thing, heavily bombed all the time, but that was more of a field operation there. And then for the last part, I moved back to the naval headquarters of that sector. It's in Ashdod. It's a bigger town, a little northern of Gaza. So I was pretty much all over the place, from south to north. But I think was interesting, or it wasn't interesting. It was very complicated for me and for my family, is the fact that my brother is an officer in combat engineering. Combat engineering were the ones who did all the tunnels.
Oh.
The whole tunnels bombing and all that fun stuff. My brother was in the northern sector, went deep in when I was escorting the forces. So for me and for my family, and just imagine my parents having 2 sons down in the region during an operation. For me, it was more than 10 years since I left the army, and you always hope that this is the last time, and you go back. And my brother is about to be done with his mandatory service. He did 4 years. He's doing 4 years because he's an officer, and all of a sudden we all call back to do this thing. So it was very complex on that end. To see all the information, to see all the young soldiers getting killed, and knowing that you have a brother in, it was very, very, very tough on us. When Eliad asked me about saying something that is, our voices from Israel, so I'm not going to go into the politics of it or anything like that, more of the personal experience of being there. First of all, personally, as I said, you're bombed all the time. And secondly, because my special position, I was really, I saw everything that was going on. At all sectors, at all forces. We saw the big bombs. We saw the tunnels. We saw soldiers getting killed. We saw Gaza getting killed. We saw everything that pretty much happened, and having such a close member of family in there, and then at some point my cousin got into, and another cousin got in, and all of a sudden, all of my age group, around my age, 10 years less and 10 years more, we were so involved in this thing, and it was very, very hard. The cost that we had to pay on that sense was very, 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 very heavy on us. But, I don't know who to thank, maybe God. All of us are out and all of us are safe. I think it's going to take a while for us, I think for my generation, to understand what happened. We don't feel it's done yet because there's no real ceasefire yet. Everything is temporary. So, for example, I am still waiting. I might be called and I have to be there in a matter of an hour or two. And that's the other thing that when I spoke to Eliad, I wanted to speak about is how Israel is small. And I live in Eliyahu, which is a northern suburb of Tel Aviv, and without traffic, I'm pretty much an hour away from my base. From where all this thing happened. So, and an hour and 15 minutes, I'm like in the middle region of Gaza. So, everything here is so close, and everything here is so. It's hard to describe this thing. That when I had some free time, I didn't stay down south because there was nothing to stay for. Whenever you could, I have my own private car. Just took it and drove back home, and you go out and you try to have some kind of normality. So you go out and you drink beer with friends, or go out to a restaurant. Most restaurants in places around Tel Aviv were empty most of the time. The streets were empty. It was very, very weird to see. I've lived in Tel Aviv for many, many years, and I've never seen it in that condition. There was something special about this operation. But you do have some kind of normality. The supermarkets are open, the stores are open, there is a siren, you go into a shelter, you come back, it's once, twice a day, it's not a big deal. It is a huge deal, but it's not a big deal on an Israeli scale. But in our south, and you were in a complete war zone. And that was, it's not the first and not even the second time that I'm going through it, but maybe now that I'm in my 30s, and maybe now that, I don't know, I'm not married yet, I have friends with kids, all of a sudden this whole thing doesn't look very, it looks very weird to me. And the last thing that I want to say, and I'm going to open for questions because I know we have a time limit, is that I'm very worried about what's going on in Israel within the inner conversation. I think in some places it went too far and became too violent and too aggressive. I don't know if you spoke about it in the Am Israel meetings, but the extremists from all sides are talking in a very, 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 very bad way. There is a lot of hatred going on in Israel right now with social media and in general. People are allowing themselves to speak in a manner that I can't remember seeing. Maybe the only time that I remember it was before the Rabin assassination, where where the demonstrations were so violent that somebody took a gun and shot a prime minister. So I'm really, really scared about this specific thing. And for me, as a moderate left-wing, Zionist Israeli, it's something that really, really scares me. It scares me because of the fragility of the Israeli democracy within this story. And I'm going to end with that, and with the hope that this situation is going to be over really soon, and my brother and all of us will be back. Be back home and safe, and and the Gazans will go back to their thing and be safe, and we won't have to deal with it again ever. And if not ever, at least for the next, good 10, 15 years.
Something that yes, we're going to open it for questions, but I want you just to share with us something that you showed me yesterday about how you can enter to a restaurant with your uniform and everyone give you a free beer
I can barely hear you. Can you go closer to the
I said that the situation now in Israel, like, this is the reason why. That when you enter to a restaurant, so people like open their doors and like give you a free beer, and like people can, like this is the new situation of many people are recruited to go and like, respecting the soldiers in many ways.
Yeah, there is a very strong feeling of solidarity. For example, I went to I went to cut my hair, and I wasn't with uniform or anything like that. I had 2 days off, and I went to cut my hair. But I spoke to the barber, and he knows me. I'm cutting my hair there for years, and we were spoken. I said I'm in Miluim, and he didn't take money from me. And I went into the bar that I went into, and the guy there, one of the bartenders I know, and he wouldn't take money. I mean, and we got so much food and gifts and things. People, I mean, in the second base that I was, the northern part of Gaza, was close to a town, to Ashkelon. People from Ashkelon would drive down with hot meals and bring it to the gate and said, just give it to the soldiers, whatever. Just give it to the soldiers, see that they get it. And we got drawings from kids, and we called kids, they left their numbers, and we called their parents and said thank you very much, and we took pictures with it, and I mean, there was a very strong feeling of solidarity with the main, most of Israelis, whoever could, donated something. A lot of soldiers needed like underwear and socks because you're in the field for so long, you don't have enough supplies, and of course you don't have laundry. So we got donated for we were laughing at our base that at some point we said, so when we're done with this operation, we need to donate this pharmacy that we got here. We had so many toothbrushes and so many shampoos and so many things. And I think the soldiers that left there donated it to somebody at the end. But Israel at its best, really.
Right. Okay, so now time for questions. Yes.
You indicated that you hope that this is the end for 10 or 15 years or more, with the terrorists still having so many weapons and so many weapons coming in, and the peace so fragile. Do you really feel that this is the end, or is going to have to be pushed until they're wiped out, until all the weapons are gone?
If I understand the question, do I really believe with all the weapons and everything that inside, do I really believe that we can end this?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you this. The Second Lebanon War was in 2006. It's been 8 years. It's quite a long time in Israeli history that we have almost no violence from the northern border, and that happened because of the Second Lebanon War and some kind of balance that we created that says, look, we can bomb the hell out of you. Really, we can do it. And Hezbollah, that is a terrorist organization, and Hamas that works in a similar way, understood the message. It doesn't mean that it's not fragile, but I am saying it is kind of quiet. Everybody understands their role in this, and now Hezbollah, both Hezbollah and Hamas, without Syria and without Iran, are having a tough time. Hamas got into this operation in a very bad position. What will be the position in the near future or the further future? We don't know. The history is being written while we speak right now. But if the leadership of Hamas is smart enough to make a deal that is a little more, is non-violent, and I believe they want it because they can't live off the weapons too much. They might have another, maybe we will see another round of violence soon, even in the next few days, just in order to everybody, we call it לעשות שרירים, to show your muscles. But I do believe that at some point, all sides will understand that force is good until a certain level. And everybody understands the rules of the game. They know that we're stronger. They know that we're moral too, and we don't, we won't shoot at civilians for too long.
Okay, there is another.
Does that answer the question?
Yes,
I'm not
yes.
sure.
Yuri, it's great to see you. This is Mike. I was just going to ask, when you said about hatred and the concern, I was just wondering, I would be worried if there wasn't hatred toward Hamas. If people are trying to kill you, I would want to hate those that were trying to eliminate me. And I was just curious about your view. I think hatred to a degree is a very positive thing. Absolutely. I certainly hate the people who
Israel was to say death to all Arabs, death to all left wingers.
No, not to
20%
Arabs.
of Israel is Arabs, either Christians, Muslims, Druze, or other minorities. It's a very problematic phrase to say out loud. I'm not talking about the hatred towards Hamas, which is, of course, Hamas is. I've never in my life, and I've been in intelligence for a long time. I haven't seen the cruelty grow so big within, the methods that they're using. But I'm talking about different things. I'm talking about Israelis, mainly Jews, from both sides, left-wingers calling the IDF murderers. They murder people on one hand, and on the other hand, the right-wingers who are louder this time, saying straight up, death to Arabs, to all Arabs.
Oh, I misunderstood.
Yeah. This is something that we should.
Did I understand the question, or am I answering something that is not?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Hamas. I'm totally with you when it comes to the Arabs in general.
You need to come here, Uri. It's not far. It's far. No, the idea is, and we were talking about it last time, and with the 39 Forever group, the terms. When you say Arab, is not Hamas. And when someone say kill to all Arab, you can be an Arab that your daughter or your son serving in the IDF.
Yeah.
So it can be very offensive.
Yes.
I'm just my worry is that I think that hate speech in Israel is and you see it with the younger crowds, and this is why I'm concerned, because I'm doing my MA in education right now, and we're talking a lot about education in Israel, and what worries me is that there is a generation that grows in Israel with a very, very, very tough hatred, hate speech embedded in whatever they do, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on everything that they do. You see so much hatred against minorities in general, and I think that this is something that needs to be dealt with, and they need to know, or we need to know, to do the separation between Hamas, citizens of Gaza on one hand, and Israeli Arabs and left-wingers. I'm a left-winger. Why do I need to see on Facebook somebody says death to all left-wingers, and then and then get 1,000 likes for it? Why? Because I'm a Zionist that I believe in peace, and I think we need to talk before we shoot. In a democratic state, it's something that is completely legitimate. We can argue about it. We as Jews do it very well. But I do think that it's something that has crossed the line so many times, this operation, and it's something that we need as Israelis to understand and deal with quickly.
Okay, אורי, תודה רבה. Omaha loves you. Yeah. So thank you, and we'll be in touch. And thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, it can actually be like a different session that we need to talk about it. What happens? We've talked a lot about the social media, but I think that this is like the new war, even in the society in Israel, how all the teachers nowadays try to fight against it. It can start even during operation, but it can even be in the class when they boycott a kid. So this is something that, of course, reached Israel very, very fast. We just talked about when the 3 boys were murdered, so all the Israelis who stood with a sign that we need a revenge, we must have a revenge, and the other side that pointed with 3, the new salute, of 3 boys. Like now we have 3 Gilad Shalit. We saw all the pictures, we saw who was there, and this is something that we actually need maybe to talk again. We'll think about it maybe after the operation, because the operation brings so many people to Ion Israel. Great. Okay, so now let's talk with Naama. I will shortly give a short introduction to Naama. Naama was the shlicha here. She works now in the police. She told me how to translate it in English, but she teaches policemen how to educate and how to teach in prison, during the life there in Israel. So she does something very important in the police. Okay, maybe she will explain more. And now she is in Hebron, as I mentioned, and
thought you wanted to go to law school.
I don't know. I work with her also, but I don't know if she... Let's ask her. She told me if it takes time, not to worry. She was right. Naama?
Yes.
I don't see you.
Just a second.
Shalom! Let's say shalom to Naama! Look the crowd that you brought to the library today! I'm saying it to everyone, yes, because of that. Okay, so Naama, everyone is waiting to hear your Israeli voice. You see here with uniform. Do you have other soldiers near to you?
No, I'm inside the room because there's a lot of noise outside.
Okay.
But I can call someone if you like.
No, that's okay. That's enough to see you with your uniforms and the ranks. Okay, so you have 5 to 7 minutes to share your Israeli voice, to introduce yourself better than I did in the last minute, and then we'll open for questions. We'll be open to 2 questions.
Perfect. So for those of you that didn't know me when I was in Omaha, my name is Naama, and I used to be the shlicha in Omaha since between 2011 and 2012. I came back to Israel and I moved from Gedera, where my parents live, to Jerusalem. So I'm now living in Jerusalem. But my parents are still in Gedera, in the south of Israel. So I know the rockets and the missiles very well from there. I got married a month and a week ago. So that's a new thing that and right now, all of you can see I'm with my uniform because I was called for reserve duty. I'm now in Hebron, it's in the South Bank, and so I'm here with almost 500 soldiers, trying to keep quiet from this side, but protecting Israel as well. So my Israeli voice is doesn't matter if your political views are left or right. In those situations, you're standing behind the state of Israel, and you do whatever you need to do, even to leave your job for a month and go for a reserve, or going south and buying products from southern markets, or people that are trying to sell their things even in war time. So you do that as well. From my point of view, I'm used to run to a bomb shelter because I lived in Beersheba, and my parents are in Gedera, and my husband's parents are in Beersheba, so we know that situation as well. I think that's it that's from my side. I can tell you that rocket fell in Oferet Yitzukait. I think it was 6 years ago. A rocket fell next to my house, so in Gedera. So I know it very well. So I'm from those people that are scared from alarms and rockets. But I think the Iron Dome is doing the best job, and we can only thank America for that.
Okay, so now maybe we can open it to questions. Okay, so yes.
Do you get American news broadcasts over there about what's happening?
I cannot hear you, sorry. I couldn't hear.
Do you get American news broadcasts like the major networks in Israel, and how do they reflect what's really happening over there?
Heard about our media said about John Kerry and what he did when he was here. I think that when you're Israeli and you know that we're here to protect ourselves, we are trying to not hear the news from the world. Like, it's not that we don't listen to it, but we're trying to focus on protecting ourselves. We're blessed that most of America is standing next to us, behind us, and even paid a lot of money for the Iron Dome. But when you hear the news about, I need to remember how you say it, Eliad, איך אומרים, אפילו בעברית זה ברח לי. Even in Hebrew I cannot tell it. About the 70% of the Democrats in America that said that they think that the guilty for the war is even between Palestinians and Israelis. Sometimes you think the world is blind.
Yes.
And that's what we think.
Thank you.
Okay, other question for Naama before we are moving to our next speaker? Yeah.
Well, as a woman, I want to know, what was it like getting married in the middle of this?
Good question.
So I got so much lucky because the day when I was married, they found a Palestinian boy that was murdered by Israeli. So it was the beginning, but it still wasn't the days when rockets fell all over Israel. So I had so much luck because a week later, or even a few days later, people couldn't get married. They tried to move the wedding to the north of Israel because all over you couldn't get more than 300 people in your wedding because of Israel won't allow you to do it. So I got so much lucky, but we didn't thought about the wedding because the war started. So I think now when everything will be calm again, we will start getting together and think about our wedding. And as I said, we couldn't thought about it.
Okay, Naama, mazal tov. תודה רבה, ממש תודה, thank you so much. And I hope to talk with you again with all this crowd next time. Yes, it's a great way. תודה רבה, stand up to all the soldiers in Hebron. And thank you for taking care of Hebron.
Yeah.
Bye. Okay. So, I've never heard her story of the wedding. It's like the same of my story. I got married in the Second Lebanon War, and we wanted to do the wedding in Akko, and then rockets came, and we forwarded it to Hadera, the wedding. Then rockets came to Hadera, so we moved it to Jerusalem. rockets. No, rockets didn't come to Jerusalem then. But then the war stopped, and then we needed to bring the wedding again to Akko. So all the invitations were to Jerusalem, and I got married in Akko. So it was making sure that no one came to the workplace. Yeah.
I just want to say that I don't know anyone that doesn't support Israel right now in my life. So I'm sorry that that's being discouraging them, because I know people are collecting money. They're not Republican or Democrat. They just love Israel and they want Israel to survive all this. So I'm sorry. I wish I could have said that to her, because I'm kind of outside the community.
I want just to tell that this is again the idea of the social
Please tell her.
media, because the first thing that she told me, wow, what a rally you did here in Omaha. I showed the pictures to all my friends.
Yeah.
People see,
even
like when you
everywhere.
upload the pictures of people stand with Israel and all the signs.
And what you don't see, you just hear
There are
it,
many other things that
and
you
I'm
don't.
not inside, I'm out there,
Thank you, and I will tell her.
Oh,
Because we
please.
don't have a lot
Yes,
of time,
you need-
and I hope that you want to exactly at 1 p.m. will rest. So I want to invite now to the stage Dr. Rami Arav, with his special Israeli voice. He's from Omaha, but he was during the operation, big part of the operation for 5 months in Tel Aviv, and he suffered from the rockets, and you have a special thing that I wanted to share with them about your idea what happened now in Gaza and why the Hamas started the war exactly now. So, Rami Arav. Again, the time frame.
Yeah, well,
between
it's-
5 to 7.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very happy pleased to be here and to see you all guys. I was in Tel Aviv at the time when the rocket was shot in, and it was kind of a spectacular thing, because I was on the 15th floor of an office building, and all of a sudden, when we were talking, we had a meeting, and all of a sudden, somebody says, I hear the sirens off. And we looked out, and but we had about like 15 seconds to go anywhere. But when you are on the 15th floor of the building, the only thing that you can go is just on the staircase. So we hardly stood up to go to the staircase, and all of a sudden I saw the rocket come in, and then soon after we saw the Iron Dome shutting it down. And I got to tell you that. There were 4 that shot to this rocket, and like we saw the interception, of course. It was a big boom in the sky. It was like fireworks. You see things flying and firework in the sky, and it was very, very spectacular thing to see. If you ignore the danger when it falls down. But the IDF did not take any chance, and they shot 4 rockets to intercept it. And I have to remember that each rocket is $50,000. And so $200,000 went up in the air in order to intercept this one rocket, which was maybe $200 to shoot from Hamas. So $250,000 were exploding in the air. I mean, that was fireworks of $250,000 just on top of the air. And very spectacular thing if you ignore the cost. Very briefly, we don't have enough time, but very briefly, I would just try to answer the question, why all of a sudden in July 7th the whole thing started? Why didn't it start earlier or later? It's not a secret that the Hamas prepared to launch an operation against Israel with all these tunnels and stuff, but it did not materialize. They never pushed to do it much earlier than what perhaps they wanted the plane to do, because the plane did not work out as the way they wanted to do it. The main reason for that was the pressure that they had from inside Gaza to go into the operation. The main pressure was from 43,000 people who are Hamas employees in Gaza, including the militants, who are just a couple of thousands, but the rest are all kind of employees of Hamas. Now Hamas, in order to pay them all the time, Hamas would extract money out of the tunnels to Egypt. They would put customs on these tunnels, and by these customs they would pay all the time for the 43,000 people, employees. When Sisi came to power in Egypt, one of the things he did was closing down all these tunnels and the passages from Egypt to Gaza, and stopping the smuggling of all kind of goods. Well, not only rockets, but all kind of goods from Egypt to Gaza. And by this, he brought down the income of the Hamas. In addition to this income, much of the Hamas income is coming from Qatar. Qatar is one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and led today by a 35 years old crazy man who is not only supporting Americans on one hand side, but supporting Hamas on the other hand side. And one of the things that very amazing is that he, the ruler of Qatar, when he's years ago, his father, on his own expense, wanted to have the Americans come down to Qatar and protect him. So he said, "Don't worry, I will. You don't have to build up an air base in Qatar. I will build it for you." So for a couple of billions of dollars, he built a state-of-the-art military camp for the Americans in Qatar just to protect him. And this is what's been done today. So Qatar is a big base, it's a big American base today, that he paid for it. At the same time, he pays also for Hamas, who are considered as a terrorist group, not only by the Americans, but most of the Europeans and the world, which means, as a terrorist group, which means that they cannot do any business with any bank. Even Arab banks or even Palestinian banks are not allowed to have any contact with Hamas, because otherwise they can go into sponsors of terrorist groups. Just yesterday, a Jordanian bank was sued for having business with Hamas, and so they are very careful not to do that, which means that the only way to smuggle money to Gaza, to Hamas in Gaza, was simply to take cash money from Qatar in suitcases and to bring it under the tunnels from Egypt to Gaza, and to pay by this money. By the way, much of this money goes back to Israel, by the way, because with this money they buy everything from Israel, including electricity and oil and food and milk and bread, and everything comes from, most of the things are coming. So Israel is actually getting a lot of these millions of dollars are coming back to Israel from this smuggling money from Qatar to Hamas to Israel. The whole thing is very interesting, very complicated. And what happened was that Sisi blocked the gates from Egypt to Hamas, and they couldn't funnel any more money. So they wanted to do something. So they started with initiating this kidnapping and killing the three boys in the West Bank. And in order to aggravate Israel to do something, in order to put pressure on Israel to start an operation against them, so they can show all kinds of pictures of a horrible state in Gaza, in order to get the world, put pressure on Israel to comply to what they want to do. And what they wanted to do is to open up the port of Gaza. So if they say, in case, if the door to Egypt is closed, we should have an open gate, an open port, so we can import whatever. We couldn't do it through the tunnels, we could do it from our seaport. And they wanted also the Egyptians to open the port. So what they wanted to do, and that was before that. Slightly earlier, they came up to, in April, they came up to a great idea that how about if they reunify with Abu Mazen, the head of the Palestinians, so Abu Mazen will pay the employees. So they signed up this unification in April, just a couple of days before before the end of the peace talk between Abu Mazen and Israel ended. They signed up this reunification, and hoping that Abu Mazen now will pay the employees. And Abu Mazen said, "No way! I'm not going to pay the Hamas employees $43,000. All of a sudden will be on my payroll. I don't want to do that. I'll pay only for people whom I think should be working for us." So these 43,000 people were left without pay in April, and then May, and then June, and then for 3 months. And they were putting a lot of pressure to Hamas to start paying, but they didn't have any income. Everything was closed. So they said, all right, how about if we do a little aggravation in the area, so the world is going to put pressure on Israel, so they will open up, put another pressure on the Egyptians, so the Egyptians will open up the gate, and we'll have a seaport. So that's the whole thing. I mean, the whole thing started. I mean, as ironic as it is, by paying 43,000 people payroll for 3 months. A couple of days ago, we were informed that finally they managed to smuggle to Gaza some millions of dollars, and this is the reason perhaps why they had this ceasefire now, because now they got the money, they'll pay, and everything is going to go back again to usual.
Thank you. And although it's interesting point of view of all the things that happens now in Israel.
You have a question?
I have a question, but only one, because we want to give time to Henry.
If Hamas is so wonderful at digging tunnels, and this whole thing is because the Egyptian tunnels were closed, why didn't they dig tunnels to Egypt?
What do you mean? Who?
If Egypt closed their tunnels
Yeah.
where they were getting their money, and it was the money they wanted, instead of digging tunnels to Israel and shooting rockets at
No, they had-
Israel,
they had-
why didn't they just dig more tunnels to Egypt?
Yeah, that's what they did all the time. But you know, Egypt on the other side is about 100 miles of desert. So they have to dig 100 miles of desert to get under the Suez Canal in order to get to the delta. That's too much. I mean, I thought that you were going to ask another question. If they are so good in digging, why don't the Israelis hire them to dig the underground train in Tel Aviv?
And now I want to invite a dear friend, Henry. He is from Omaha. You will tell all of your story.
To Jerusalem, that's fine.
We have 7 minutes, the same frame, and you will give me a...
They destroyed it already.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Meanwhile, I want to introduce two very interesting people.
See you later.
Both Israel is in their ear. Dr. Cheva Vidavsky, say shalom. She came for 4 months to Omaha, and we're very happy that she's here. And as I said, we need to talk with an Israeli in order to understand what happened in Israel and not according to all the media. And Asaf Gavron! Asaf is part of the Schwab Center, and he's going to lecture in the UNO. He's a very famous author in Israel. Part of your books were translated to English, right? So I have the right to invite you to the next town in Israel, okay? And we are going to do things together. So thanks for coming. And
he's going to be part of film streams next Sunday. He's going to be commenting on the movie, so anybody interested, you can have a dinner, hot dogs and hamburgers, and make reservations. Where do they make reservations to?
Steve,
Right
it's
here.
not film streams.
Oh, it's here.
It's our
Here, not film streams, I mean the film festival. Here. Next Sunday.
Reservations by Thursday for dinner.
So I thought I'd have more time. I had to cut quite a bit. But basically, my name's Henry Ginsberg. I was raised in Omaha. Went to high school at Westside. Went for a year to University of Nebraska in Lincoln, and then a year in Omaha. And pretty much all throughout my Jewish education, we are taught about this idea of Israel, the land of Israel, but we don't really feel it. We see the pictures of it on the screen, we see it on a globe, and we're taught that it's our God-given right to have that land. But to me, personally, it's not about what God did or did not promise us or give us. It's about a land where Jews can come together and not only make the world a better place with such inventions, such as the technology for smartphones or for computers, but also, for the first time in modern history, we have a place where we can defend ourselves from the people who wish to annihilate us. When I was 19, I was rather oblivious to what was going on in the world. News didn't really interest me too much. I was more about what was going on where I was. I went on a trip called Birthright, and for those of you who don't know, it's a program where travel expenses are paid for young adults between the ages of 18 to 26. And during the trip, 8 Israeli soldiers come to be part of the trip for 5 days to introduce you to the Israeli culture, the mentality, just become more part of Israeli society. Sorry, I just finished this yesterday. The trip opened my eyes not only to the beauty of Israel, but it made me realize that I have a chance to make my mark for the Jewish people and in Jewish history. So on about day 6 of the 10-day trip, I called my mom and I told her I was coming to join the IDF. I'm a very impulsive person for those people who couldn't realize. Yeah. So eventually I ended up in the Golani Brigade as a lone soldier. A lone soldier is, there's a misconception that lone soldiers are only people who come from abroad to come serve in Israel without their family. I'd like just to make a point that there also are Israeli lone soldiers who are a very big part of the army. They're kids that usually come from the very Hasidic Jews, where their families don't support them joining the IDF, but they want to do their part, so their families kick them out. And it's a very sad story. But basically, I did 2.5 years of my service, and I served on the Egyptian border, Syrian border, West Bank, and I spent most of my time up north on the Lebanon border and the Gazan border. I also took part in Operation Pillar of Defense in 2012, which Uri briefly mentioned. There was no ground invasion at the end of the operation, so I was lucky to have gotten through my service with no hardships until the current conflict going on, known as Operation Protective Edge, had started. Americans who come to Israel after the age of 19 are required to do a shorter military service just due to the older age. So, like I said, I'd ended up doing 2.5 years rather than 3. So I only got it a couple months ago, so all my friends that I served with are still currently there. And once the operation had started, I lost communication with all of my friends and I wasn't really sure what was going on. When I heard the operation was starting and the opening aerial retaliations for all the rocket fire, I had spoken to a couple other American friends that have served in the IDF with me. Who had already also moved back to America, and we spoke about trying to go back and maybe re-enlisting, joining the fight, or like just trying to help out and be a part of it somehow. And then when the ground invasion started, they had sent the battalion I was in to one of the most dangerous cities in Gaza, Jabalia, to take care of Hamas's Special Forces unit. In one night of the first night of fighting, 13 soldiers were killed, including my friend Sean, who you see here. He's an American. He was raised in South Padre Island in Texas. Also Max, who was raised in Los Angeles, also a lone soldier. Both of them were lone soldiers. A friend of mine, Oren, who served with me in Golani, and another friend of mine, Oren, Shaul, who was not only killed, but Hamas terrorists kidnapped his body. They tried to claim he was alive, and even made a fake Facebook with a computer-generated image of him speaking against Israel in Arabic. Sorry. Now I want to be very clear on the fact that this operation and speech and even movement is not against the Palestinian people. This is a movement against terrorist organizations of a terrorist organization's stronghold over the innocent lives that are forced to live in their wicked ways. I just want to show you a clip very quick of a summer camp that Hamas runs in Israel. I'm not sure what clips you have or have not seen. This will just give you a brief idea of what's going on.
Dear Mommy, can't do so much for me. We cheered a lot. My counselors are great. When I grow up, I want to be just like them. I know I'll make you proud one day.
So with that kind of mentality brewing in their children's minds, how can peace ever really be a reasonable option? Like it was probably known that the first couple ceasefires that Israel immediately accepted, Hamas had rejected. And when these kids become to be our age of going in the army and becoming part of the situation, who knows what will happen. And so after I heard about what happened on that night of fighting to the soldiers in my battalion, I bought a plane ticket for the following day and flew back to Israel. Upon arrival, I left my bags at my host family's home that I had while I was in the army. I met with two of my close friends that I discussed going back to Israel with, and together we made our way down to a hospital in the city of Ashdod to visit a close friend of mine who had been injured in Gaza and was hospitalized. Here you can see us too. The following day, my friends and I made our way to Mount Herzl in Jerusalem for Max's funeral. Here is a picture of Max's grave at the end of the funeral. The death of a lone soldier has always been a very heavy hit to the nation of Israel. And for Sean's funeral that was in Haifa, about 20,000 citizens had attended, and about 30,000 for Max's. Israeli citizens come from all over Israel to show their support as well as love and appreciation for them, even if they didn't know them personally. The country of Israel has come together as one in these sad times, and I've been told by Israelis themselves that they have never seen such unity in the country before. As you heard Uri say that the people were bringing down all sorts of snacks, food, all things like that to the soldiers with donations. At one point there were so many people bringing snacks down that the majority of it was left out, was ruined in the sun, was left for garbage, and it created a very disgusting and unsanitary situation going on in these bases. So eventually radio DJs started making public service announcements saying that anyone that wants to make donations, that they should switch to things like socks and underwear and even cigarettes. Eventually after the funeral, I made my way down to the Gaza border with my friend Alex, who served with me in Golani, as well as our buddy Leon, who is in charge of the organization Chayal L'Chayal, which is, they collect donations from all over the world and use those donations to purchase supplies that are in dire need in the field. Leon, our buddy who's in charge, has direct contact with the high officers in all of the brigades, and they tell him what they need and he goes out and gets it. Here you can see a picture while we were down south. Like he said, you only have a couple seconds when you're right on the border from rocket fire, and if you're driving, there's not much you can do, so it's just really possible that you stop wherever you are, get out of the car, and lay on the ground. And as we made our way from one base to the other, you could constantly hear the color red rocket siren going off. And throughout the trip, I ended up getting a hold of some kids from my platoon that I served in, and I ended up getting in contact with them, finding out where they were stationed, and I made my way down to visit them, and I spent the afternoon with them. I also made a couple more trips to visit injured soldiers and did the best I could for the situation in Israel. Israel is the only real democracy in the Middle East, and that lets Jews, Israeli Arabs, and Muslims hold positions in the government. It also protects the rights of homosexuals, with one of the largest homosexual populations in the world living in Tel Aviv. I don't care how Jewish you consider yourself, whether you wear a kippah every day or haven't seen a kippah since your bar mitzvah. Israel is the free land of the Middle East, and all who stand against it are standing against the freedom that it represents, and in turn are supporting the terroristic government structures of murdering your political opponents and scaring the citizens into voting for you. Not only do I stand with Israel, but I speak out for it too. Thank you.
is not enough. It's like things that touch the hearts of people. I do want to have some question or two if you have for Henry. Yeah.
What are you gonna do next?
Well, in a couple of weeks, I'm starting again at UNO. I'll be studying banking and finance, and then we'll see where life takes me.
My son just made Aliyah yesterday.
Congratulations. I saw the news article. I don't think so. I saw the news article of like hundreds of people.
Yeah. They were there, so.
I did that in 2010.
But you lived there, you just.
No, I lived there for a year before I served. I made Aliyah and I have Israeli citizenship and everything.
Oh, so you're.
I just moved back after the service.
So because I see that people need to go, Henry can stay for a few minutes
Yeah, I mean,
with questions. I want to thank you all for coming to Ion Israel.
Thank you.
See you next time. Happy to bring more voices from Israel.